Old telephones always hold something unsettling. It feels like they can capture voices of those who are long gone. In a college dorm in America, there was an old payphone. Nobody used it. It hadn't worked in years. But one night, a student named Laura heard it ringing. The sound was strange, hollow, as if it came from miles away, through layers of silence. She walked up and picked up the receiver. "Can you hear me?" whispered a man's voice. "Who is this?" she asked. "It doesn't matter. What matters is, don't look at the window." Laura thought it was a prank, but her heart froze when, at that exact moment, someone tapped on her window. The next morning, Laura told her roommate. The girl only smirked. "It's an old legend. They say if you hear that phone ring at night, never answer." Everyone who did disappeared, but Laura had already answered. From that night on, things grew strange. Her room carried the smell of damp basement walls. Mirrors fogged up on their own. And at night, in the reflection of her window, she saw a face that wasn't hers. 3 days later, the phone rang again. This time, Laura decided not to answer. But the ringing didn't stop. It went on for 20 minutes, until she nearly broke down. Finally, when she picked up the receiver, the voice said, "He's closer now." "You have 3 nights left." Laura dropped to the floor, shaking. Someone was clearly tormenting her, but nobody could explain why the phone only called her. The next night, she woke up to the sound of the phone ringing beside her bed. But the payphone was still in the hallway. She turned on the light and saw it. A massive black figure stood outside her window, holding a telephone cord that stretched all the way under her pillow. The figure vanished the moment she screamed. Each day, Laura grew paler, more exhausted. Her friends thought she was losing her mind. On the 4th night, the ringing started again. With trembling hands, she lifted the receiver. "Time's up. Look at the window." Laura slowly turned her head. No figure stood outside. Instead, her own reflection stared back at her from the glass. But where her eyes should have been were only hollow, black voids. The next morning, her roommate entered the room. Laura was gone. On the desk lay a single phone receiver, though the payphone was still in the hallway. The phone never rang again. But sometimes, late at night, someone in the dorm swears they hear a faint whisper. "Can you hear me?" There are places people try not to speak of. They're not on maps, not mentioned in guidebooks, and never recalled in memories. But those who encounter them either vanish forever or return changed. In the early 2000s, a small town in northern America faced a series of disappearances. At first, it was teenagers, then adults. They left home in the evening and never came back. Police tried to connect the cases, but every lead went cold. The only thing they all had in common were strange calls to 911. People reported an old wooden house on the outskirts, abandoned, crumbling. A house that nobody could ever find again the next day. Later, it would be known as the room without windows. The story's main character was Michael, a local journalist always chasing after sensational stories. The disappearances seemed like the perfect scoop, and he swore he'd uncover the truth. He began collecting witness statements. Everyone described the same thing, a house on the edge of town, sometimes whole, sometimes in ruins. But inside was always the same nightmare, a room without windows. You go in, "And you lose all sense of time," said an old farmer. "I thought I was there 5 minutes, but when I came home, 3 days had passed," admitted a young woman, nearly insane from the experience. Michael didn't believe it until he saw it himself. Late one night, driving home from work, Michael saw a light in the distance, a single, faint yellow glow. As he got closer, he saw the house, old, 2 stories, its paint peeling, barely standing. Inside, silence. The air smelled of damp rot. The floorboards groaned under his feet. But what chilled him most was the living room. No windows, none at all. Just endless blank gray walls. In the center of the room stood a chair. On the chair, a cassette tape. Michael took it home and played it on his old tape recorder. At first, it was only muffled sounds. Then, a voice grew clear. "You found the room. Now, the room will find you." Then, silence, followed by slow, heavy footsteps. From that moment, Michael was never the same. Every night, Michael woke up from the same dream. He was sitting inside the room without windows. In the corner was a chair. On the chair sat himself, but with his eyes torn out. The dreams soon bled into reality. In the morning, he'd find muddy footprints in his apartment, though he hadn't left. Sometimes, new cassettes appeared on the floor. When he played them, all he heard was breathing right behind him. A month after finding the house, Michael disappeared. On his desk at the newspaper, they found only his recorder. "I thought I could tell the world, but it's stronger than me. I can't leave. I keep going back there. If you're hearing this, don't look for it. The room without windows never lets anyone go." In the final seconds, a door creaks open, then a heavy thud, as if something collapsed to the floor. They searched for the house again, but on the spot where it once stood, there was only an empty field. Nothing remained, except for a single wooden chair in the middle of the clearing. They say if you sit on that chair at night and close your eyes, when you open them, you'll be inside the room without windows. And once you enter, the way out no longer exists. On the outskirts of a small American town stood a decaying roadside motel called Sunset. Once a place for truckers and travelers, it had long been forgotten after the main highway was rerouted. Now, it smelled of mold, dust, and silence. Locals whispered, "Never rent room 213. Robert, a 35-year-old photographer, arrived seeking peace and solitude. After a painful divorce and losing his job, he wanted to disappear for a while. He ran a small YouTube channel about abandoned places, forgotten factories, empty homes, ghost motels. The motel's elderly owner, a thin woman in her 70s, handed him a key. "Just don't take room 213, she said quietly, avoiding his eyes. "There's a leak in the ceiling." But when Robert noticed how beautifully the sunlight came through that window, he insisted, "I'm a photographer. I need the light." The woman sighed, "As you wish, but don't open the wardrobe at night." That first night, Robert woke to the sound of dripping water. He checked the bathroom. The tap was closed, yet dirty water trickled down the sink. A dark stain had appeared on the wall near his bed, shaped like a human hand. He took a picture, planning to show it to his viewers later. A classic haunted vibe. But in the photo, the stain was gone. Instead, in the mirror's reflection, he saw a figure, a woman with long wet hair standing behind him. He told himself it was just a trick of the light. The second night, a voice whispered in his dreams, a woman's voice. It repeated one word, open. He woke up drenched in sweat. The old wooden wardrobe in the corner trembled slightly, as if something inside was breathing. It's just the draft, Robert muttered. But the faint tapping continued. From inside, he pressed his ear against the door. Silence. Then soft laughter. He jumped back and switched on the light. The wardrobe was empty, except for a dusty gray dress hanging inside. But the floor beneath it was wet. The next morning, Robert uploaded his photos to the laptop. Every image was distorted, strange silhouettes, blurred faces, streaks of light. On one picture, a woman in a gray dress stood right behind him. When he zoomed in, he froze. It was the same dress from the wardrobe. He rushed to check. The wardrobe door now hung wide open. The dress was gone. And from inside came the smell of stagnant, rotten water. Downstairs, Robert confronted the owner. Her face went pale. That room, something terrible happened there, she said. In 1989, a woman and her daughter stayed in 213. The husband left them. They had no money. On the third night, the mother was found, drowned in the bathtub. The little girl was missing. Robert swallowed hard. And the wardrobe? The woman's voice cracked. They found the girl a week later, behind the wall of the wardrobe. She was hiding there. Robert decided to leave in the morning, but that night he woke to the sound of the wardrobe door creaking open. A faint giggle came from the darkness. He grabbed his camera, hit record, and pointed the light toward it. Inside sat a little girl, maybe 7 years old. Bluish skin, wet hair, empty eyes. Who are you?" he stammered. "I was waiting for my mommy," she whispered. "She's still here." A wet dripping sound came from the ceiling. Then, the woman in the gray dress slowly descended from the shadows above, her face blurred like underwater. Robert screamed and ran for the door, but the lock wouldn't budge. The camera shook violently, then went dark. A week later, the police arrived. The motel owner had called after hearing a man scream and seeing the lights in 213 on all night. But the room was empty. Only a camera lay on the bed. The final video lasted 9 minutes and 47 seconds. Robert was standing in front of the wardrobe, whispering, "She won't let me go." At the end, as the camera fell, 2 figures appeared, the woman and the girl, standing side by side. They looked directly into the lens and whispered, "Now, he stays with us." The Sunset Motel is abandoned now, its windows boarded up. But on paranormal forums, a strange file sometimes appears. 213.8p4. Those who watch it to the end claim they hear knocking in their closet at night, and a quiet voice behind them whispering, "Open it." On the outskirts of Detroit stands an old government archive, a concrete block with no windows, surrounded by rusted fences and flickering streetlights. It used to store classified documents decades ago. Now it's nearly abandoned. Only one man works there at night, John Rivers, the night security guard. He's been doing the same lonely shift for 2 years. Everything was always quiet, until one night a new camera feed appeared on his monitor, camera 19. John noticed it immediately. His surveillance system had 18 cameras. That night, a 19th window appeared on the screen, labeled CAM-19. It showed a black and white image of a corridor he didn't recognize. One flickering light, cracked walls, damp floor. He walked through the entire building, every floor, every door, but there was no such corridor anywhere. It simply didn't exist. Around midnight, John heard footsteps downstairs, slow, heavy, echoing through the empty basement. He grabbed his flashlight and went to check. All the doors were locked. Nothing seemed out of place. But when he came back to the control room, something moved on camera 19. A pale figure passed by. He leaned closer, and the figure stopped, turned slowly, and looked straight into the camera. The screen flickered and went black. The next day, John told his supervisor. The man just waved it off. Probably a technician testing the line, he said. That night, the phone rang, the internal one. John picked it up. There was no voice, only soft breathing. Then a whisper. "Why are you watching?" John froze, then slammed the phone down. When he turned back to the monitors, camera 19 was showing himself, sitting there at the desk, staring at the screen. But on the monitor, his reflection didn't blink. It didn't move at all. Each night got worse. The feed showed new things, crawling hands, shapes that moved against the light, the outline of a woman in a white coat. One night, John saw the basement door open on camera 19. He ran downstairs, but when he arrived, the door was locked tight. When he returned to the control room, the feed showed him standing at the door. Only this version of him didn't have a flashlight. And behind him, something was moving. The next morning, John checked the server room. There was a new folder, CAM-19. It had dozens of video files, though the camera had appeared only yesterday. He opened one file. The date read 1989. The same corridor appeared on screen. Then, a man in a security uniform identical to his own. The man looked into the camera and said, "She won't let go. She's still here, beneath us." That night, John decided to record everything. He sat by the monitors, camera on, waiting. At 3 a.m., camera 19 came to life again. The corridor appeared dimmer than before. The light flickered, and dark handprints covered the wall. A woman stepped into view. White lab coat, hair hanging over her face. She walked slowly toward the camera, then stopped, tilted her head. Suddenly, every monitor in the room lit up. On each screen, her face, hundreds of eyes staring right at John. When the morning shift arrived, the office was empty. The monitors were still on. The phone was ringing. Camera 19 showed an empty chair, John's chair. On the wall behind it were fresh, dirty handprints. A week later, police examined the server. The final recording from camera 19 was timestamped 3:06 a.m. In the video, John stands in a dark corridor, flashlight flickering. He whispers, "I found her." The camera falls to the ground. For a second, the image flips, and we see someone in a security uniform leading John away into the darkness. Since then, every new guard claims the same thing. From time to time, a new feed appears, camera 19, and on it, someone is sitting at the desk, motionless, staring into the screen, sometimes all the way until sunrise. Every town has a place people avoid talking about, a house that everyone crosses the street to avoid. In my town, that place was the old mansion on Homewood Street. No one remembered who lived there, only that since the late 1980s, it had been completely abandoned. And yet, Some swore they'd seen a dim light flicker in the upstairs windows at night, even though the house had no electricity. I never believed those stories until I decided to film a video for my urban exploration channel. I ran a small YouTube channel where I explored abandoned buildings and told their stories. By Halloween, I wanted to make a special episode, something darker, more mysterious. The Homewood house was perfect. According to local rumors, no one had gone inside for more than a decade. The front door was locked, but the rusty latch gave way with a hard shove. Inside, the air was heavy, the smell of mold, dust, and something sweetly rotten. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dark, revealing broken furniture, peeling wallpaper, and strange drag marks on the floor, as if something heavy had been moved recently. I turned on the camera. Hey guys, today we're exploring the most haunted house in the city. People say folks went missing here. Let's find out if that's true. And I stepped inside. Upstairs, I found a small bedroom, clearly a child's room. In a dusty dresser drawer lay an old, worn-out diary. The first few pages were innocent, about school, friends, and summer walks. The girl's name was Allison, 14 years old, but the entries soon grew darker. Mom says if I hear footsteps again, I shouldn't open the door. Someone's standing by my window at night. I saw his reflection, tall, with a face like a doll. He talked to me today. He said he misses me. The last entry was dated November 14th, 1987. After that, the pages were torn out. I kept filming. The battery icon flashed red, even though it had been fully charged. Then I heard it, soft, deliberate thuds from the stairs. Step, step, step. I froze. Probably the wind, I whispered, though my heart was pounding. I aimed my flashlight at the staircase. Empty. Just dust and silence. When I turned back, the bedroom door was closed. I knew I hadn't closed it. I reached out, pushed, and the hinges shrieked as it opened again. The room was empty, except for a new footprint in the dust. Small, bare, fresh. I checked my footage to prove I wasn't imagining things. In the clip where I read the diary, I saw it. A shadow standing in the doorway behind me. Still, watching. I rewound. The shadow was there. But when I paused the video, the shadow's head turned toward the camera, even though the playback had stopped. My phone screen went black. Then it lit up again, showing the pale, ghostly face of a girl. Allison. Her eyes were empty. Her skin looked like glass. She whispered, "He's still here." I wanted to run, but then I heard it. A soft giggle, coming from under the floor. There was a door leading down to the basement. I opened it. The air grew damp and cold as I descended. My flashlight flickered, revealing children's drawings on the walls. A family, a house, and beside them, a tall, faceless figure. In the corner stood an old television. It suddenly turned on by itself. The screen flickered, showing the very room I was in. Only there was someone standing behind me. I turned around. He was there. A tall, thin silhouette. A porcelain mask with no mouth. Just standing. Staring. I ran toward the stairs, but the door slammed shut. From the darkness came a chorus of whispers. Hundreds of voices, young and old, merging together. Stay with us. You're part of the house now. No one ever saw that video. 3 days later, the police found my car by the roadside. My camera was on the passenger seat, still recording. The last frame showed the basement stairs and faint laughter in the background. The house on Homewood Street was sealed again, but now, they say, two shadows can be seen in the upstairs window at night, one tall and one much smaller.